others about their emotions, all of those aspects shape how they're showing up in any given moment. When they can see that themselves and personally, then they're easily going to be able to make that connection for their employees too and see, oh, there's that human element, the human dynamic that's really shaping how they're either buying into their role and job or not.
Yeah. And then it is so incredible to watch the transformation, right, in a team when a leader starts realizing how to be a more effective leader and starts modeling those behaviors and shifting the energy of the group as a whole. It's just incredible to see what happens. It's
It
beautiful.
is.
Do
It
you
is.
have any examples that you want to share of like where you helped a team transform like that?
So, this just recently, I was working with a group where there was a lot of siloed behaviors going on in this team. There's actually like three different distinct roles, and they essentially they are supposed to be working together to create an end product for their customer, but they were working in, like I said, siloed fashion where like one role would complete their component of the end result, the another role would complete their component, and then at the end they're trying to fit these three different components together to create the end product. And it's just not as good because they weren't working and collaborating together very well. So that's kind of the scenario. And their leader saw this. Their leader was like, hey, this is the problem. So he kind of knew. And so that's why he pulled me in. And basically, I just did an exercise with them to to kind of synthesize or model what was going on in their day to day, but with a completely different situation. I just had them build like a Lego vehicle, and I split them out into these three roles. And then the first time in building this vehicle, I gave them, here are your customer requests. And I put a lot of restrictions on their communication. Like they couldn't talk to each other. they they had to work on their own. And obviously, at the end result, none of the groups met all of the customers' requests. And then we did it again where I asked them to specifically connect with each other and talk about, what are your guys' strengths and weaknesses? What are the values that you bring to this team? And then from there, assign who's doing what and collaborate to come up with how to come out with the best end product. And then their communication was completely unrestricted that time. And the not only did they all the groups meet the customer requirements, but the creativity that came from that was amazing. And of course, after these exercises, we did a really cool just debriefing conversation of like, all right, you guys, how did what you just experienced in these exercises connect to your day to day? And they're like, we're just like, holy cow, I cannot believe how much what we experienced in this little simulation is what we experience in our day to day. And they got to start thinking through problem solving, solving those challenges that are getting in the way. And it was very much just encouraging them to go from having a mindset of being an individual contributor, like I'm just here to do my job, to clock in and leave, to, hey, you're actually part of a team, you're part of something bigger. And so you need to look up from just what you're doing and see how what you're doing connects into the greater purpose of what your team is doing. Then not only are you going to win in creating a better component, piece of your part of that puzzle, but then like the whole team wins. And there should be some joy and connection in that as well. And so that was just like a kind of just a simple exercise just to get people's brains thinking about these things. And then again, opening up the conversation. What do we want to do about this? Which builds trust and then helps them to start working towards solving those problems.
So great. What a fantastic exercise to do. I mean, and it worked on so many levels, was so effective. I love that you thought of that.
Yeah.
Yes, really, really creative. And it seems like it was really what they needed in order to be able to see what it would mean to transform.
Yeah. And it really was, it wasn't even really the leader in this situation, because like he saw this and he knew. It was like
Right.
getting the people to actually shift from, I'm just being task oriented and focusing on what I'm doing, instead of saying, hey guys, look at the bigger picture here. Why you're doing what you're doing. Like, let's look at the context, which, when we work in that way, connecting it to deeper meaning and purpose, it's my opinion that this contributes to more meaningful work because you have a worldview that goes beyond just you and yourself and your own. And so the worldview connects it to contributing to a healthier and better connected community or society. Because the work that we accomplish isn't for the sake of just doing the task, but it provides some type of goodness or meets some type of need in the greater collective of humanity. And so, like, that's where some of that power really comes from, in my opinion, of having that people oriented leadership. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think, I mean, we've seen so much research on how important connection is, right? And and then at the end of the day, that's really what you're talking about, is taking people from these siloed environments where they're just focused on their task and what they need to accomplish, and connecting them to their peers and their teams and their supervisors in a way that's meaningful, and in a way that brings more fulfillment to what they do and how they spend their time every day. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I guess on a similar topic, what are some common challenges that leaders tend to face when they want to prioritize people development?
Time is always one of those big challenges. We don't necessarily, we don't have time for this. Well, I would just counter that with, you don't have time not to do this. Yeah, creating connection, it does take time, and fostering trust, it does take time, because you're not just executing something. Like, you're not just, again, executing on a task, but you're changing hearts and minds. Like, that's not going to happen overnight. So, it is going to take some time. However, in the long run, it's going to be a lot more time efficient to actually put some intentionality and time into developing the people side of things, because you're going to have greater or better outcomes in the end. You're not going to wind up like I was saying earlier, where when some of my clients come to me, they're finding that their task orientation is resulting in an ineffective outcome. Like, you're not wasting that time, like, from the get-go, for like, this is important to us. You're going to build it in. So that's one of the biggest pushbacks that I hear in this, is just that time. Another one is, you kind of said this at the beginning, but like, having a point of view of